Hello and welcome to PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Ian Hartitz, and today we continue our Fantasy Files series with a look at DeVonta Smith, Mr. Heisman, Alabama's absolute stud. Like, if you did not watch what DeVonta Smith was doing last year, you're either living under a rock, maybe you just kind of had a lot of stuff going on in your life. I don't know. But either way, he absolutely balled the hell out every single game. Literally, every single game. His worst performances came against Tennessee, where he only caught 7 passes for 73 yards. And then against Arkansas, where he got held to 3 catches, 22 yards, but he also happened to bring a punt back to the house. So just the amount of explosive performances he had otherwise were absolutely loony. He reached 130 yards and scored multiple touchdowns in 9 of 13 games, people. I mean, the stretch that this dude was on at the end of the year, 250 yards, 3 touchdowns against Ohio State. In the first half, another 3 touchdowns against Notre Dame, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns against Florida, 4 scores, 203 yards against Mississippi State, 3 scores, 231 yards against LSU. Like, this is why when you talk about DeVonta Smith, and the biggest issue people can find is the fact that he weighed 166 pounds. And to that, I just say, who cares? Because show me one instance over the last season where that made an impact on his on-field performance. And I think you're going to be looking for an awfully long time. Size did not matter for Smith inside of college football's best conference. It didn't matter even when they made it out of that and played the rest of the country's best teams. And it really didn't matter for him throughout his career. The guy comes in as a freshman, catches the game-winning touchdown in the national freaking championship against Georgia. It comes the next year, and is playing behind some pretty great receivers, still manages to catch 42 balls, 693 yards, 6 scores. In 2019, he had 68 catches for 1,256 yards and 14 scores, again, with a lot of great Bama receivers. But then after last year, it's really, at this point, we either need to admit or at least really wonder, like, has DeVonta Smith just been the best Bama receiver here the entire time? With all respect to Judy, to Ruggs, to Waddle, just from a production standpoint, we have not seen anybody do it quite like DeVonta Smith. And really, this is from our PFF 2021 draft guide and kind of echoes my thoughts here. And this is from the always fabulous Mike Renner. It's difficult to find on-field cons for Smith. His weight will be brought up again and again over the course of the spring, but that's it. That's his con, not his routes, his ball skills, his releases, his body control, or his speed. When that's your only concern, and it hasn't even come to light as an issue on a college football field, then there's not much to be worried about. Smith is a versatile game breaker who just wins. That's a fit for any scheme in the NFL. I love it. 95.6 PFF grade, 4.39 yards per out run. This was, again, an absolutely absurd season that you likely all witnessed on your own. So we get that. DeVonta Smith, truly one of the best college football wide receivers we've seen. What can we expect in the NFL? I talked about Jalen Hurts on one of these fantasy files recently and brought up how even if he wasn't pretty as a passer last year, 41st among 44 qualified QBs in PFF passing grade, 39th in turnover-worthy play rate, dead last in adjusted completion rate. We saw a lot of bad from Hurts. We just don't really care how bad it looks as long as we get the production in fantasy land. He managed to throw for 338 yards against the Cardinals, 342 yards against the Cowboys. And that's fantastic. It took Josh Allen, who is now on anyone's short list, the top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. It took Josh Allen until his 3rd year in the league to clear 300 yards. Now, I would put my money against Hurts ever developing to be as good as Josh Allen, but at least we already know, even on an Eagles team with one of the more injury-ravaged offensive lines you'd ever see, even throwing to a wide receiver core led by disappointing rookie, let's be honest, Jalen Reagor, ex-AAF-er Greg Ward, and Alshon Jeffrey's corpse. Travis Fulgham was like the only bright spot, and they wouldn't even play him towards the end of the season. Even with all that going on, Jalen Hurts still found a way to put up some production through the air. And now DeVonta Smith is the clear-cut number 1 guy in this group. We should have a better offensive line. It makes sense if Jalen Hurts, just having a whole offseason to now work as the undisputed starting QB, even if the Eagles are still saying it's a competition. Take some notes there, Matt Nagy. It's seemingly better quarterback who Smith already has plenty of experience with from going to Bama together. And now what might just be the number 1 wide receiver from this class, I would say Jamar Chase or maybe even Jalen Waddle. But at least in terms of a rookie wide receiver going to an offense and we're looking for opportunity, I don't think there's a better situation in the league. DeVonta Smith deserves to have the highest target projection of any year 1 wide receiver. And if he's even 80% as good in the NFL as he was at Alabama, that's a scary thought about the numbers he could put up right away. So we've gotten some, some news about the new look Eagles offense. And one of the notes is how Jalen Reagor is going to spend most of his time in the slot. Now, people, to me, that's fine. I mean, they're probably going to use these guys all over the place. We only see a few offenses kind of really station their receivers in one spot the whole year. I think more and more teams are trending towards like a Kansas City Chiefs model where they end up playing kind of 30, 40% all over the field. So I'm not saying DeVonta's not going to be in the slot, but to me, if you're saying Reagor is going to be kind of the lead slot guy, that tells me Smith is going to be the lead number one pass game option. Why? And why wouldn't he be? They traded up an extra third round pick just to get 2 spots to take him out of the fear that the Giants were going to snag him ahead of him. So we have an organization that traded up for this guy that has a quarterback, even if he's not a polished passer by any stretch of the imagination, he's shown he can put up solid passing numbers, and we just have less target competition than just about anywhere in the league. So I think you add it all together, and DeVonta Smith needs to be treated as a wide receiver too in fantasy land pretty much immediately. And I'm cheating a little bit here. He's my PPR wide receiver 25 at the moment. But people, I didn't realize I was, helping lead the DeVonta Smith bandwagon until I was on this podcast about a week ago with my guy, Andrew Erickson, and we were just seeing what guys we were much higher on than ADP would suggest. So yeah, Smith, my PPR wide receiver 25, I take him ahead of guys like DJ Moore, Adam Thielen, Kenny Golladay, and Odell Beckham. And, I take the top Bengals, Rams, and Buccaneers, a wide receiver ahead of him, but I just really think where he's going, like you don't even need to draft him ahead of Moore, Thielen, Golladay, and Beckham. I would say you probably shouldn't based on where they're going relative to Smith. But guys, he's going as the wide receiver 37 over at Underdog. Like, would it shock any of us if we look at the week 1 box score and we see DeVonta Smith had 12 targets? I don't think so. Like, he has a gaudy 150 target projection in his potential range of outcomes. And if he manages to hit that number, like wide receiver 2 territory could be a bit low. For some reason, Jamar Chase is basically the only rookie wide receiver that's seen a major jump up throughout this entire process. And let's face it, everybody. I mean, what DeVonta Smith did in 2020 deserves to have him not ahead of Chase, but in the same conversation. And that's why ever since the draft, I mean, I've had Chase 1, but to me, it was a 1A, 1B situation because as great as Chase is, and again, I do think Chase is better than Smith as a real life football player. Smith's the one that could be looking at 150 targets. Like, I just don't see any path to Chase reaching that number as long as T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd are healthy and deserving targets in their own right. So DeVonta Smith is someone that, again, based on his current ADP, is shaping up to be one of the biggest steals of the entire fantasy football offseason. Again, the only negative you can come up with for this guy in terms of what he does as a wide receiver is his weight, and we just don't have any on-field evidence of that being an issue. Clearly, the Eagles aren't worried about it, so you shouldn't either. Draft DeVonta Smith in 2021. You will not be sorry. That's going to wrap up the PFF Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying these shorter Fantasy File episodes. We got a lot of summer to still get through. I plan on talking football each and every day, in between a pool trip here or there. So again, thank you for tuning in, everybody. And until next time, take care.